the first bilateral visit by a Canadian Prime Minister to Japan in 10 years. 今日は竹内総理大臣
10 years. For 10 years, no Canadian Prime Minister stood in Tokyo. For 10 years, one of the most natural partnerships in the entire democratic world sat dormant, waiting, underutilized, taken for granted. Trump spent that same decade believing Canada had nowhere to go. No alternatives, no options, no partners willing to step up when Washington applied pressure. Today, Mark Carney proved every single part of that assumption wrong. He didn't come to Tokyo for photo opportunities. He didn't come for ceremonial handshakes. He didn't come to maintain what already exists. He came with $1 trillion of combined ambition, 6 strategic priorities, and a message for Washington delivered entirely without mentioning Washington once. Today, Canada Insider breaks it all down, and the numbers will leave you speechless. Here is what most people completely missed. This is not routine diplomacy. Leaders visit allies all the time. Bilateral meetings happen every week in every capital around the world. Handshakes are photographed. Statements are issued. And most of the time, nothing fundamentally changes. This is different, because the last time a Canadian Prime Minister came to Tokyo 10 years ago, Canada and Japan were partners by geography and habit. 2 Pacific nations, 2 G7 members, 2 democracies that traded with each other because it made economic sense and because the architecture of the post-war world made it natural. Today they are partners by strategic necessity, by deliberate choice, by a shared understanding that the world has changed, and that countries like Canada and Japan, trusted, stable, resource-rich, technologically advanced, must move together faster than the old institutions allow. That distinction changes everything.
Canada and Japan are close economic, security, and G7 partners. Our armed forces patrol the Asia-Pacific together. Two-way trade is over $40 billion. Japan is one of Canada's largest investors. Nearly 3/4 of the vehicles manufactured in Canada are made by Japanese companies. And over 10% of the food imported into Japan comes from Canada. We do much, but we're ready to do much more. And that's a common theme of our government. So my government was elected with a clear mandate to build boldly with a speed not seen in generations.
Let those numbers land for a moment. 3/4. 3/4 of every single vehicle manufactured in Canada is made by a Japanese company. Not partially, not historically. Right now. Today. Japanese investment is so deeply embedded in Canada's automotive sector that the two economies are already structurally intertwined in ways most people never think about. And then the food number. Over 10% of everything Japan imports to feed its population comes from Canadian farms, Canadian waters, Canadian soil. That is not a trade relationship. That is a dependency that runs in both directions. Canada needs Japanese investment. Japan needs Canadian food and resources. Neither country can simply walk away from the other. That is the foundation Carney walked into Tokyo to build upon. And he didn't come to maintain it. He came, in his own words, with a mandate to build boldly, with a speed not seen in generations. That phrase is not rhetoric. It is a direct signal to every boardroom in Tokyo, every investment committee watching this visit, every government assessing whether Canada is serious about its Indo-Pacific ambitions. Canada is serious. Canada is moving. And Canada is not waiting for Washington to approve the direction. While Trump was applying tariffs to slow Canada down, Carney was accelerating in every direction Washington cannot control. And what he announced next makes that acceleration impossible to ignore, because one number towers above everything else in today's visit. And that number starts with 1 trillion, 3/4 of Canada's vehicles. Japanese, 10% of Japan's food. Canadian. $40 billion already flowing between two countries that hadn't exchanged a prime ministerial visit in 10 years. Now imagine what happens when Carney adds $1 trillion on top of that foundation. When he connects that foundation to 6 strategic priorities that Washington cannot veto. When he turns a dormant partnership into the backbone of Canada's entire Indo-Pacific strategy. Because that is exactly what just happened in Tokyo.
And we're acting. We've cut taxes on incomes, capital gains, and housing. We have a super deduction in place for write-offs of all investment, a host of clean energy tax credits. We're catalyzing $1 trillion in investment over the next 5 years in energy, AI, ports, and new trade corridors. We are doubling government investment in defense-related R&D for next-generation capabilities in AI, quantum, robotics, and autonomous systems, and we discussed some of this in our meeting. Our defense industrial strategy will unleash over $500 billion in investment over the next decade.
$1 trillion, not over a century, not over 50 years, over the next 5 years, in energy, in artificial intelligence, in ports, in new trade corridors that do not route through the United States and do not require Washington's approval to function, and then in the same breath, $500 billion for Canada's defense industrial strategy over the next decade. Doubling government investment in defense-related research and development for next-generation capabilities in AI, quantum robotics, and autonomous systems. And then the energy numbers. Canada is in a position to double its LNG exports by the end of this decade, and double again by the end of the following decade. That is 4 times current LNG export capacity built within 20 years. While Trump talks about American energy dominance, Canada is quietly becoming the energy supplier of choice for the entire Indo-Pacific. That is not ambition. That is architecture. Numbers so large, so specific, so irreversible that no tariff threat, no midnight social media post, no demand for compensation can unwind them.
Our partnership has 6 priority areas. First, most importantly and fundamentally, we are enhancing our security and defense cooperation through information sharing, technology transfers, cooperation in maritime security, and establishing a new cyber policy dialogue so we can rapidly detect and deter cyber attacks. Secondly, we are strengthening our economic security with robust supply chains and strategic technologies, consistent, Prime Minister, with the insights of your book, what you've long argued about the importance of strategic economic sectors. That means reliable access in space-based communications, semiconductors, rare earths, SMRs, fusion, clean energy technology, AI, and sovereign cloud. As part of this, we're expanding our existing cooperation within the G7 Critical Minerals Alliance to secure reliable stockpiles and build our processing capacity. The third priority is to strengthen our already significant trade and investment relationship to a new level. And that's close collaboration to connect the Trans-Pacific Partnership in the European Union trading bloc, something we'll discuss this evening. It's having trade missions, such as the Team Canada mission that will be coming here in the next few months. And it's having discussions, as I will have tomorrow, with CEOs of Japan's most important companies to discuss new investment opportunities in both our economies.
But here is what most people completely missed. Carney didn't just announce investment numbers. He announced an architecture, 6 priority areas, each one targeting a specific vulnerability Trump thought Canada could never address alone. Priority 1, security and defense cooperation, information sharing, technology transfers, maritime security, a new cyber policy dialogue to rapidly detect and deter attacks, Canada and Japan building a security framework that operates independently of American oversight. Priority 2, economic security, semiconductors, rare earths, small modular reactors, fusion technology, sovereign cloud infrastructure, Canada and Japan building the technology stack of the next generation together, without asking anyone's permission to do so. Priority 3, trade architecture, connecting the comprehensive and progressive agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership with the European Union trading bloc. Think about what that means. Canada sitting at the intersection of 2 of the world's largest trading systems, neither of which requires American participation to function. Priority 4, energy and food security, LNG, nuclear, hydrogen, $6 billion in agri-food and seafood already flowing to Japan annually. And Carney's words, we can do much more. Priority 5, Arctic and climate cooperation, Canada opening resource regions that no other country on Earth can access. giving Japan reliable supply chains that bypass every choke point Trump has tried to exploit. Priority 6, people-to-people exchanges, scholarships, youth mobility, academic and cultural cooperation that builds connections so deep, so personal, so human that no trade dispute can sever them. 6 priorities. $1 trillion in investment, $500 billion in defense, double LNG by end of decade, double again by end of the following decade. And then Carney closed with something that said more about Trump than anything else in the entire press conference. He didn't use Trump's name once. He used a Japanese proverb instead.
Finally, Prime Minister, as you know, there's a Japanese proverb that articulates the opportunity ahead of us in these difficult times globally. Ame fute ji katamaru. After the rain. Thank you. After the rain, the ground grows firmer. Adversity tests our strength and builds it. So today, we are taking our first steps on firmer ground together.
After the rain, Carney didn't name Trump. He didn't have to. Every leader in that room understood what the rain was. Every government watching understood what adversity meant. Every Canadian following this story knew exactly who had been testing their strength for the past year. And here is what that rain produced. Trump applied tariffs to isolate Canada. Canada opened Tokyo for the first time in 10 years. Trump wanted Canada dependent on one market. Canada committed $1 trillion to partnerships that need no approval from Washington. Trump thought Canada had no options. Canada just connected the Indo-Pacific to the European Union with Japan as the bridge. Trump called Canada weak. Carney quoted a Japanese proverb and called it firmer ground. At every single turn, Canada did not retreat. It repositioned. It did not shrink. It expanded. The rain tested Canada. The ground is firmer, and Trump is still waiting for the phone call that is never coming. If you believe Canada's future should be built on Canadian terms, if you believe $1 trillion of ambition and one historic visit to Tokyo is the most powerful response to tariff pressure any country has ever delivered, if you want the analysis that connects every visit, every deal, and every strategic move Carney is making across the Indo-Pacific into one clear picture, this is your channel. Subscribe to Canada Insider, turn on notifications. Stay ahead of every move that matters. And now I want to hear from you. Is Carney's Tokyo visit $1 trillion, 6 priorities, and a Japanese proverb the moment Canada's global repositioning became unstoppable? Or is the real test still ahead? Let me know in the comments below.